Hello, everyone. Hope you are well on this Saturday morning. I'm going to talk more about the 15-minute cities. I've done some research on this, and like some of you said, it's a little difficult to find information on it, but I did find some, and a couple of you have sent me articles on it. I really appreciate it. I also have an excellent Bible passage to share with you from the book of Matthew. But first, I saw this yesterday, and I have to say, I was a little surprised. I should not be surprised, okay, but I was. But our Georgia governor, Brian Kemp, has been attending the summit in Davos in Switzerland, the WEF. So that's interesting. So that tells you a lot. I also saw that they have had 5,000 troops, Swiss troops, that are protecting this summit. 5,000 troops? Do they need that many? Apparently they do. And the first question I have is, well, what are you afraid of? And why do you need so many? Very interesting. I'm sure they have talked a lot about climate change and climate emergency and all this, but on the other hand, I'm sure most or all of them took private jets to this meeting. Very interesting. But yeah, 5,000 troops to protect them? Yeah, okay. I guess they need it. Okay, 15-minute cities, there's a lot to unpack on this, so bear with me. Looking into this, it looks like this concept has been in planning for a while by you know who, and they're popping up in a lot of places already, especially in Europe. The WEF is wildly happy about this, and they are very excited, enthusiastic, whatever you want to call it, about this concept, understandably. And when I hear that they're excited about something, that makes me pause automatically, no matter what it is, okay, and I need to look at it. Paris, France, Oxford, England are two places in particular that the articles focused on as far as this concept of 15-minute cities. Now, some are fighting back. There are citizens, especially in the UK, who are protesting this. The media has been very silent about it. So that's interesting as well. But basically, they divide up the city into sectors or zones. And basically, you can get from one end to the other in about 15 minutes. It's a place where you can do all your business. You live, you shop, work, go to school, get your health care, get your mail, recreational things, basically everything is within reach within 15 minutes. It sounds good. And, many cities have been divided up into this informally for years, and within history, a lot of people have lived in that one small area most of their lives or all of their lives, so the concept the way they will sell it will sound really pretty good. So hey, what's wrong with having everything at your fingertips? You don't have to do a 2-hour commute or whatever. But when you dig a little further, okay, it's a little more than that, okay. And there's other motives to this, which you can imagine, but they're selling it as greener and safer, save the planet, so which that in itself also makes me pause and say, okay, what's going on here? But and I want to say from the outset is that if you are for this, hey, I'm not bashing you. There are going to be people. There are going to be millions in droves that are going to embrace this and already are. And if it's for you, then you do you. You go for it. But there's going to be more to this than meets the eye. Okay. It looks like it's a further, they want to further seize control of your life. And that is their aim. I guarantee you that. It is designed to restrict, coerce, fine, I'll go more into that, punish, surveil. They want to limit your fundamental right of freedom of movement. Now, this is my big deal right here. This is one of them, is your fundamental right for freedom of movement for the residents, okay? You're not allowed to leave your 15-minute zone by car more than the allotted times per year. And that can vary, I guess. And if you do, if you leave the zone more than your allowed number of times, you can be heavily fined for this. Also, it will allow the government to track and control your every movement through your smartphones and facial recognition technology. Now, some of you will say, well, dog, they're doing that already. Yeah, maybe so if you allow it. Most of us do, but we still have the freedom of movement. If I want to drive to the west coast of California tomorrow, I can do that. I can go where I want, anytime I want. If I want to go to New York City and drive there at 3 a.m., I can do that. The WEF has also talked a lot about this concept, and it is crucial to their Agenda 2030. You've probably heard about that. I won't go into all that, but it's part of that. And it's part of their green agenda, saving the planet, of course, while they travel around on jets and probably eat really expensive food and who knows what, God knows what else, right? In 2024, Oxford in the UK, Oxford, England, is set to impose a climate lockdown to save the planet. The plan is to erect electric fences along the access road to ensure that residents remain in their zone. Sounds like Hunger Games to me. Now, that's what it sounds like, some dystopian movie of some bad B movie as well. But now residents are allowed to leave the zone, but only for a certain amount of times. One example they gave is 100 times. Let's say you're allowed to leave the zone 100 times a year. You're going to say, well, at first that sounds like a lot, dog. I mean, that's 100 times, but within 1 year, okay, that's a good little stretch of time. You also must register your car or automobile, and it will be tracked via smart cameras. The restrictions will get tighter and tighter. I think a good practice run was the last several years, in my opinion, to gauge compliance. You know what I mean? But what they project is that, the restrictions will get tighter, the permits will get fewer, will diminish. It's all about control, really, is the bottom line. And to control every part of your life. We've seen that, haven't we? Davos, Switzerland, this summit they've been having, 52 heads of state, over 600 corporate directors have been attending this thing. While people are forced to choose between eating or heating or their medications, they want to put you in a 15-minute zone, but they can jet around wherever they like. How does that sound to you? It sounds like a prison to me. Again, I'll say, I believe millions will flock to this and embrace it. And it may seem really cool at first. It might seem like a utopia. My concern is, I could be totally off, but my concern, my gut, the hair on the back of my neck stands up when I hear about this stuff, is that it will quickly turn into something that is not so pleasant. Quote unquote, save the planet, help all of humanity is what they are saying. You know who they is. Like I said, residents in Oxford are already protesting this, and it's not getting much coverage at all. Really, no coverage. You have to dig. Like I said, you really have to dig to find information on this. Brings a whole new meaning to you will own nothing and be happy, huh? I believe that, like I said, people will flock to it and really go to it. But I believe the bottom line is we have to say no. And there's a lot of power in no. We still have that power if we will keep it. The bottom line, they want to strict, and the biggest red thing for me, well, other than just total control, is restrict your movement, restrict your mobility. You're easier to control then, much easier. And once you're in it, how are you going to get out of it? You think you're going to have 2A? You think you're going to have the Second Amendment in there? Think again. I could see this really taken off in Europe, certain parts of Europe. I could see it taken off in certain parts of the United States, actually. I think a large part of the United States and Canada would not take kindly to this. That's my hope, my prayer. But I have to believe that the majority of North America still values freedom and liberty. What do you think about that? I saw a comment on one of the postings about this that said, try that. Try it here in the United States, and they will not like the result. I hope that's the case. I really do. I can imagine the reaction, especially in some places. I've got to share a really good passage here. And now this one is a tough one. It's easier said than done, but bear with me. It is from Matthew chapter 5. Jesus is speaking to the crowd, of course. Now this is verse 43 and 44. Love for your enemies. He says, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. How about that nugget? You've heard it before. I think there are many deceived, and we need to pray for them. We do need to pray for our enemies. That doesn't mean be a doormat. That doesn't mean that you let them run all over you, but we can pray for them. It doesn't mean you have to hang with them and be, like I said, be taken advantage of. It doesn't say that. Remember what Jesus did on the cross as he is in pain, unimaginable pain. We can't imagine that, but he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. I mean, that is powerful. That is powerful. They know not what they do. So let's remember that. Try to be the best follower we can of the Christ Jesus. Well, share your thoughts on this. I'm going to continue to follow this concept and see what happens. But let's take care. Let's be aware. Be safe out there. God bless you. I'll see you soon.